Hello everyone! In the last video we covered the deployment process and its three unique phases: build, deploy and post-deploy. And as we've seen, each phase handles various scenarios. And today we are going to learn how to customize the deployment process, and we will do it actually by modifying scenarios. So phases are made up of scenarios and scenarios are made up of steps. And this concept is known as scenario-based deployments, a fantastic system created by Adobe. It is amazing because we can tailor our project to meet specific deployment needs. So let's switch to our project and let's customize the deployment process together. Alright, so we are in the Magento Abian file and we are looking at the hooks section, and as we know from the previous video, this is the entry point for the scenario-based deployments. So we have a build, deploy and post-deploy phases, and each of these sections here in the YAML file has a configuration of specific scenarios or comments that can be run in it. So for example, what we can do before we actually dive into the scenarios process. So as we can see, we can basically use shell commands like, for example, composer install to install all the composer dependencies. And also what we can do, we can run some other PHP scripts. So for example, I created a sample script called build PHP, which is a simple echo with hello world new build. So let's actually try to do it after the transfer XML. So we will simply define that we want to run PHP scripts and not composer PHP but build PHP. So this will be our first change, and firstly we will create all the necessary configurations and then we'll see how it all applies into our deployments. So we have a PHP scripts build PHP run at the very end of the build phase. And if we want to alter our scenarios, we first need to have a place for it. So we need to have a module. So we can of course create a module in app code, and I actually already did it. There is a CodeXpert Cloud deployment, which is just a simple, like basically empty module with just etc module XML configuration and registration PHP and composer JSON. We also can use the vendor packages, so it depends on your needs, but we can just simply, for our case, put it into app code. And let's go firstly, maybe open a documentation page, because there is a scenario-based deployment page in Adobe Commerce documentation, which basically explains what we can do, how we can alter, how we can create new scenarios or alter existing scenarios. So everything is already explained here. We will see it all in action. And because we want to alter our scenarios XML files, and as you remember from the previous lesson, like when we run actually those scenarios, we execute the vendor bin EC tools to run it, and this is not a standard Adobe Commerce Magento module. So we require some customizations here. So we need to register a module with the EC tools package. So normally in the registration PHP we have this registrar. Let's see, this is component registrar. We cannot use it because then EC tools will not see our changes, right? So that's why we need to firstly configure this here. So the component name will be our module name, so it doesn't really matter. So we can simply put it as here. This can be removed as well. Also, there is an update in the composer JSON, but actually because this is app code module, we do not require any composer JSON, so this change is not required. But also there is a need to add config services XML file into your module, and this configuration is merged over config services XML from EC tools package. So basically the EC tools package, it uses the Symfony dependency injection. So if we actually go to vendor to Magento ECE tools, we can see there is this config services XML file, and here is a configuration for basically of a dependency injection. So depending on the class constructor, it will auto-wire some classes or not auto-wire. So basically there is this dependency injection configuration to make our classes work. So let's let's just create a directory here. So config and services XML. Yes, create a file, and let's copy the configuration. All right. So we should put code-expect here, cloud deployment. So because we do not use the src directory in app code, we simply can remove it. And yeah, this for now, I guess we don't need it. So later we will add some new lines here, but for now let's leave it as it is. And now let's actually go to a vendor again, to ECE tools. ECE tools, here we are here, and into scenarios build. So for now, let's maybe focus on creating a new scenario. So we'll create a simple scenario with just one step, but later we'll actually alter the deploy scenario. So we will create like a new, let's say, deploy extended scenario that will change the deploy phase. So we'll see this in action, but first, like I said, let's focus on the creation of a new scenario. So to make this video short, I won't create like a specific steps and implementation of it. We'll simply create some simple class with basically a logger to log that our class is executed. So for now, we'll create a scenario that will be called pre-build. So we will run it actually before the build scenario. So let's maybe copy the generate XML file. We will just simply copy it into the cloud deployment directory, and let's name it pre-build. And yeah, let's remove everything beside one of the steps. So as we know, scenarios are made up of steps. So here we define a name of a step. So this will be a pre-build. So actually you can see that there is already a pre-build step in the generate XML, but let's create a pre-build for our cases. So it will be not Magento anymore. It will be code-expect, right, cloud deployment, and let's leave it in the step build. Let's call it pre-build. So this will be custom pre-build step, and priority, it can be 100. It doesn't really matter because this will be just one step in our whole scenario. So let's now create a class. Okay. So there is a step pre-build directory, and there is a custom pre-build step class. So now what we need to do, let's go to generate XML, let's open the pre-build class, and we need to implement a step interface. So let's copy that, let's paste it here, and we need to create a new, PHP Storm was asking me about imports. So now we can create our method stubs. We just simply need to implement the execute method. And if we get back to the pre-build PHP file, we can see there is a constructor and there is the logger interface. So let's maybe quickly just copy this. Let's paste it here, but we only require, let's say, the logger for our logging purposes. So this can be removed. Okay. So because we use the Symfony dependency injection, it won't be like automatically done. We also need to configure this custom pre-build step into our config services XML. So what we need to do, let me just go quickly to services XML and let's copy this. All right, so we need to configure that service code-expect cloud deployment step pre-build custom pre-build step auto-wire true. So this will tell this Symfony dependency injections container to actually use the custom pre-build step and auto-wire the logger interface, the logger object into our construct. So now we can simply use this logger info, and let's say this will be custom pre-build step, hello world, new build. Let's leave it as it is. Yeah. Okay. So this is the pre-built XML for now. So of course you can implement here your own logic for pre-built. It all depends on the requirements of your project. But like I said, this is just a simple showcase. So now, right now, what we need to do? So we have a scenario, but it's nowhere it's nowhere configured. So we need to define to run the pre-built XML, and we need to do it into the Magento app YAM file. So let's go over here, and because it will be run before the build, let's actually copy this and paste this new line here, and we need to run the scenario build, but this is not the correct directory, right? The correct directory will be app code expect cloud deployment. Let's say, let's check if this is the correct code expect cloud deployment exactly, and pre-build XML. So this is the correct path that you need to use if you want to use the app code module for your scenarios. So we can actually try running this in our shell, because we have access to vendor bin ECE tools, so we can actually make sure that the custom pre-built step correctly logs, and if we actually can run the pre-built XML. So let's go over the shell, let's connect to the Warden shell, and let's just copy this and paste it here. So let's see if this works. So there is an error, has been already defined. Okay, so I had some issues with the services XML. Maybe I think let's remove it for now. Let's try. And there is scenario app code. Okay, it should be app code lowercase. Let's copy that. Let's paste it. Pre-built XML. What? Okay. I don't know why. All right. So this is actually something that I configured for testing. I'm not sure if I can find it right now where I did this change. It was container, I think. Yeah, I added echo. This is a container from a Magento Cloud, so basically from the ECE tools. So this is the class that was actually auto-wiring some dependencies, because I had some issues with this dependency injector, so that's why I was testing it. So let's remove it, let's clean and run it again. Okay, so now we can see that actually the pre-built XML scenario file can be run by the ECE tools run command. So we have the starting scenarios, then we have our echo custom pre-build step, and their scenarios finished. So if we just deploy it, it will automatically work in our deployment pipeline. So again, we won't deploy it right now. We will actually go again to PHP Storm and right now alter the deploy XML scenario. So we know how to add a new scenario, but now how to extend it. So if we go to the documentation page again, there is this extend a default scenario section. So it is explaining how we can actually extend a default scenario. So here is an example. So there is the string that we basically have in our Magento app YAM configuration. So there is run scenario deploy XML, and we can just define here a new scenarios XMLs that will be merged into one XML file. And there is a priority that basically it is merged. Here is, in the example, the scenarios have the following priority. So if firstly, let's say the deploy to XML is merged onto deploy XML, and together they are merged into the deploy XML. So whatever is in the deploy, it will override the deploy XML, and whatever is in deploy to, it will deploy the two lower scenarios. So this way, it means that it will go from right to left. So if we right now create a new file, we simply add it here. This will override some steps from the, not only steps, but some configurations of the scenario. It will merge into the deploy XML and it will override it. So what we can do, we can remove default steps by simply adding a skip through. We can replace default steps. We can skip some like items in some steps. We can change the step priority. So we'll actually see it in action right now. So let's open the PHP Storm. Let's go to the scenario deploy XML. Let's open it and let's maybe just copy the whole file and put it into cloud deployment as deploy extended. And let's see what we can do here. So for example, let's replace the PHP OP cache reset step with our own implementation of this step. So we will create a new class and we'll firstly, let's do it here. So CodeExpert cloud deployment step deploy, and this will be a custom PHP OP cache rest set. Okay, let's add a new class and let's just copy what we have in the pre-build. So let's simply copy this into this. Yeah, we need to rename it custom PHP OP cache reset, and let's put a name custom PHP OP cache reset. So yeah, let's change it here to deploy extended so we can actually see this in our logs. And of course we also need to do it into services XML files. So let's copy the class name and let's paste it here without this. Okay, so this is for now okay. So this is the first change that we did. So we replaced the Magento Cloud implementation of the PHP OP cache reset step. Let's right now, for example, remove deploy failed flag. So let's skip this step. Let's just simply add here the skip true. All right, so this will be enough for this. And for example, for the pre-deploy, we have some steps. So, or maybe no, let's remove this. Let's remove this validate config. So for example, we want to skip the mage mode variable. So we don't want to have this warning validator. So basically we can remove everything here, right? Because we remember, so whatever we have here will be merged onto the deploy XML file. So all the things will be there, right? So that's why we can remove it. All right. So we will just simply skip this true. All right. And for example, what we can do, we can maybe create like change the priority, right? Because we didn't do it. So for example, for the unlock cron jobs, let's remove everything else. And for the unlock cron jobs, we will change the priority into, for example, let's say 10. So this will be run at the very beginning of the deploy scenario. So it is at the end of the deploy extended XML, but because we changed the priority, this will be done at the very first actually step. Because if we go to the deploy XML, we can actually confirm that the smallest priority is 50. So this will mean that we should see firstly unlock cron jobs. And let's see if there is a logger here. Let's maybe also replace it with a like CodeExpect implementation. So let's simply copy this because I want to show you that indeed this step is logged and is like executed at the very beginning. So that's why I want to have this let's say custom step. So this will be, let's say, remove deploy flag step. All right, let's create a new class for it. And also again, let's copy the content. All right, this needs to be renamed and let's put it here. So deploy extended, this should be enough. And okay, we also need to add it into services XML file. So let's do it. Okay, so this will be enough. So what we miss? we have the deploy extended XML file. This is our scenario that will override the scenario, the deploy XML file. And the last action that is required from us is to put it into Magento app YAML file. So let's just copy this thing, and like the Adobe Commerce Cloud documentation states, we need to put it here. So it's not pre-built, it is deploy extended. Let's copy the name here, and we can actually try running this to see. Let's maybe run without it. So let's just copy this command into shell just to confirm that indeed it works exactly as we want. So there is, let's say, custom remove deploy flag step, deploy extended. So this is the first one. So this is the priority number 10. There is a custom PHP OP cache reset, remove deploy failed flag was skipped, validator was skipped, and the validation. Okay, so there are no errors. This means that we can safely commit it, and basically we can see if the deployment indeed took our configuration. So let's get back to PHP Storm. Let's revert this change, and let's actually, okay, let's now switch again here, and let's go to Vaimo Pro project, and let's actually commit our changes. So this will be, let's say, extend deployment, and we can run the Magento Cloud push. So we can just run it. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, we want to continue. So now we will see the logs here. So we will be able to confirm if indeed our changes were correctly made. So first, our change, it was the pre-built XML file. So let's open the pre-built XML file. And what we require is to run this scenario with the custom pre-built step text. So let's see if this is indeed run. So right now there was some validation. This is a composer install step. So now we need to wait for the composer install to be finished. All right, and now the composer install step is done, and we should see that our pre-built scenario is executed. So indeed we can actually see it here. So there is info starting scenarios app code pre-built XML. There is a custom pre-built step hello world. So and scenarios finished. So this was run at the very beginning, right before the scenario build generate XML. So this confirms that our new scenario is correctly added. So now there is a scenario build generate XML and also transfer XML being run. So there is the running DI compilation in the generate XML. So let's wait for the deploy phase. All right, so the DI compilation is done. We can see some other steps being run here, but there is the end of this, let's say, so there is scenarios finished here. There is a scenario called transfer XML, right? So the transfer XML also is done. But as you remember, also into Magento app file, we added the execution of this custom build script. So it was, if we open this scripts build PHP, there is this echo hello world. So indeed we can see that it was executed here. And now we can also see that the scenario deploy XML, and also there is the information that we not only ran the scenario deploy XML, but it was actually merged with the CodeExpect cloud deployment deploy extended XML file. So let's see if our changes are here. So there is the custom remove deploy flag step. So let's open the PHP Storm to actually see our changes. So let's see. So firstly, the first one should be custom remove deploy flag step because the priority is 10. So let's see. Custom remove deploy flag step deploy extended. Indeed, it was here. Now we should see the custom PHP OP cache reset text. Indeed, custom PHP OP cache reset is here. Then we see there is the remove deploy failed flag was skipped. And indeed, we skipped the remove deploy flag step. And then we should see into validate config that there is the mage mode variable skipped. So let's actually find it here. It's called mage mode, and we'll see validating configuration, validator match mode variable was skipped. So all our changes were applied, were merged into the scenario deploy XML file. Alright, so for this video, this will be actually all. So we learned how to actually write new scenarios, extend existing scenarios. And firstly, I hope that you can see that it is very flexible and very easy actually to change the deployment process with the scenarios-based deployment. So of course we have out-of-the-box deployments, and like I mentioned somewhere in the video, I have never had an opportunity to actually do something like write new scenarios or extend scenarios. I didn't do it, but it doesn't mean that you will not do it. Maybe this will be useful for you. I hope it is useful for you, but nevertheless it is crucial to understand the process behind the deployments that are run into Adobe Commerce Cloud. So thank you for watching, and in the next video we'll actually cover the static content deployment. So there will be more theory, but yeah, stay tuned. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.